welcome everyone to another episode
Welcome,
of Alphawaves
welcome.
Podcast.
In the building.
Yes, we are episode 33.
Yep.
And today we are talking about
Curiosity. Yep. So we wanted to touch, well, I wanted to touch on curiosity. Because, we all know the saying, did curiosity kill the cat?
Well, the second part of that saying that people might not know is that satisfaction brought it back.
People being me. Maybe you lot are like me, but I've never heard that in my life, so I don't know.
The first time I heard it, I was like, okay.
That's
cool.
Crazy. Is that like a new age addition to it?
No, I think that's
always been there.
just always been there,
So
but it's just been left off.
So yeah, like there must be a reason why it must not be true.
People don't want you to be curious. People want you to be controlled. That's what it is.
You think, like with curiosity, it's something that can be controlled.
What do you mean?
Like, if you're a curious person, do you think you could ever stop being curious?
I don't think so. I think if it's in your nature and you are a curious person, you'll naturally in yourself will ask the questions that other people might not.
Because you see, curiosity, it has this connotation sometimes, and I don't agree with it. And it's like it's like a troublesome like connotation, yeah.
Yeah.
But me, I'm a curious person, and that unfortunately translates into all aspects of my life, and fortunately in some ways. But like, I can't just accept something as it is without. Well, I can, but I like to know why, or I like to know more. Like, if you came in here and you said to me, something that I've written just got published, and I'm now the best-selling author, I'll love that. But
I would love that.
I mean, timing. But then I would also want to know how. Like, my curiosity would just click in. Like, so how did you manage to do that?
Yeah.
Like, and it's
who
not
did
even.
You talk to? What were the steps?
Like,
I'm the same. I want to know how people got there. Who what got them into it.
But then there's like things where it's not so great that might enter your life, where like you might see something growing up where you're a bit more impressionable, and you want to know what that's like, or how they managed to do that, or I wonder what it's like to be like that. So the connotation of troublesome, have you heard? I'm not making it up, right? That is like a real connotation.
Yeah, I think so sometimes, because obviously that phrase is curiosity killed the cat, and I think sometimes, one thing that I've heard, maybe not necessarily growing up, but just kind of heard is, to not ask questions, or don't be curious, don't question things, just accept things the way that they are. But with me, I feel like if you're a curious person, and there's a difference between being curious and impulsive, it can lead to just some beautiful things.
What happens when you're a combination of the both?
It's chaos.
What did I text you saying?
That's a different episode.
What did I text you? What was the phrase that I used?
Which phrase?
I'm a controlled menace. Is that it?
I forgot you said that. Yep, you did say that. You're a controlled menace.
It's like if I didn't have that level of control, my curiosity would just be menacing.
Well, let's talk about that then. How do you control your curiosity? And what does controlling your curiosity even mean or look like to you?
It's so difficult to put into words, and
oh, okay.
But it's hard. Done. It's harder to like. The reason I say that is because my mind works crazy. Where something that I'm curious about today, if I don't act on it, I may not be curious about it tomorrow. But then I might be 10 times more curious about it 3 days later. So it's so weird. It's like
lingers.
When I think it's gone away, it hasn't. It will pop back up, and then it's like.
Have you ever experienced that in your life where you've had to just let it go?
Maybe because of proximity.
Wow. You really are a controlled man.
But it depends what it is, isn't it? Like it literally depends. I mean, I would have had to have at some point, but I can't pinpoint a moment in my life where I just actually sat down and said, you know what, let it go. But there's definitely like
I was waiting to see where it would go.
Yeah. Let me not even continue that one.
All right, let me ask you this then.
Go ahead.
Where do you think your curiosity comes from?
That is a very interesting question, you know. Do you know what, yeah? I blame it on being a younger sibling.
Interesting.
And I've just thought about it now.
Huh, okay. Tell me about that. That's so funny.
Growing up, like, I have an older brother. And naturally, you want to know what they're up to. Like,
you're some annoying younger.
No, just because you're learning life, isn't it? And this is the closest person to you, like, in terms of age.
To learn from.
Yeah. Your parents are older than you. They're going to give you that parental. But an older brother, you would just want to watch and kind of understand what they're doing. And maybe it doesn't, I don't know if I'm blaming it on that, but it might not be because I'm naturally a listener.
Yeah.
So that might have been the case with anything. But he was probably the first person that I was most curious about. Like, what does he get up to? What does...
That's so sweet.
It's mad, right?
Young Darren just
and I'm really tapping back into it. That would
brother.
be the first person I was curious. Like, yeah, that's the first person in my life that I was curious about what they was up to. And then from there, obviously, it then extends to your own personal life. And it's just grown and grown and grown and grown. And now I'm at a point where, even though I can control it to an extent, I'm just overly curious about everything. It's mad.
What do you mean overly?
Like things that I don't need to be curious about. Like, why are you curious about that? But I'm curious.
I'm hearing you speak now, it's actually making me question my curiosity. Like, if I am as curious as I think I am.
But I thought everybody was like that until something happens, and you see, like, nothing really ever happens to everybody at the same time. So it's hard for you to measure it. COVID was when I realized that not everybody's curious, because everybody was going through the same thing, but not everybody was looking into certain things. Certain people were just accepting certain things. Certain people was just like not looking at why or how, or wasn't even curious to find out more. It was just, okay, this is what we have to do because they said this. Like, and that was the first point in my life, and that's very recent, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the first point in my life I realized that I might have not a problem with curiosity, but a higher level of curiosity than normal.
Average. Than your...
than the normal. No, let me not say normal.
Than others.
Yeah. And looking back on it, maybe my curiosity has got me into situations that, number one, have benefited me, and number two, that I probably should have left alone. But you live and you learn.
Give us an example of the first one, like where it's benefited you.
Just the thirst for knowledge. It's benefited me.
Yeah.
Career-wise, creatively, family setup, everything. Like, going through certain things made me curious to know how other people was doing it, or how other people have... Like, I say this thing to my friend a lot of times when we're going through stuff, is like, we're not the first people that's ever going to go through this, and we're definitely not going to be the last. But because people have gone through it already, it's made me curious to understand, like, how they dealt with it.
Yeah.
Like, becoming fatherhood, for instance. I've never done that in my life before.
Yeah.
But I know I wasn't the first person to be a father. So, like,
hold the phone, guys. Something new's happened. Have you heard about?
So you look into other fathers, and you're curious to see, like,
how
what
they do it. Yeah.
Just things of that nature. That's like part of the stuff where being curious is
That's
benefiting.
interesting. I really like that, because I think that is so beneficial to like be curious about different industries in the world and stuff like that. And I think I resonate with that to some extent in terms of like being curious about, you know, spirituality and different things. And I think one thing that I really appreciate my curiosity for is that I feel like it almost saves me from like following the crowd or manipulation.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
Yeah, because I feel like there's also a fine line between curiosity and suspicion.
There's that as well. There's that as well. And I feel like certain people get that wrong. But even with following the crowd, when something is trending, I don't ignore it. I'm curious to understand why. Like, what's so great about this thing that everybody loves? And I'll give it a period of my time.
Yeah.
But from there, I can decide if it's for me or if it's not. Like for instance, with cryptocurrency, right? There was a point where there was a call for it at an early stage. I had a little bit of interest, but didn't really dabble. Then like there was a big wave.
Yeah.
And I saw it start to affect people around me. So I was more curious then.
Like, what is this cryptocurrency?
Got involved. Saw the ups, saw the downs. The downs. More than ups. But hey. But like you realize what's for you and what's not.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I didn't know, what would I have done at the next spike? I might have been ultra curious and put too much money in. Or do you know what I mean? So there's things like that.
It's interesting you say that, because I feel like I experience my curiosity in a different way with that. So yeah, so instead of like the same thing with cryptocurrency or other things, like I'll be really, or you know, whatever's trending at the time, I'll be curious to hear what people think about it and what's going on with it. But I wouldn't necessarily try it myself. Like I don't like being not the guinea pig, but you know what I mean? Like I don't like being part of the first wave of people to do or try something. I like to be curious in terms of seeing how it plays out and then deciding if I want to try it to see if it's for me.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Like more observant.
It gets like that. Like if I can see, it's weird because in a different aspect, if I can see 10 people doing one thing and I have an idea of a different way of doing it, I'll go with my way. Like I'll be curious to see how my way plays out, because there's 10 examples over there of how that way plays out. Let me see how my way plays out.
Yeah.
So it all depends. Like it's not fixed in stone on, everyone's doing this. Let me be curious to see how they're doing it. It's weird. Like I said, my mind's crazy when it comes to curiosity. I can't put a handle on it.
But why do you say that? Like, what do you mean your mind's crazy with curiosity? Like, what do you mean?
I don't know if it's like little things that I've been shown early, but like, you know, like you just don't know how something is until you get it. And then when you get it, it's not always like the new car feeling.
Yeah.
Like when I was a bit younger, I wanted to experience not the flashy car, but like a nice car, yeah?
Yeah.
And there was this thing that in me, that when I got it quite young-ish. It depends what you class young in this day and age, because you got 16, 17-year-olds doing craziness. But relatively speaking,
relatively young,
early 20s, yeah?
Yeah.
And like, I got that period out of my life at that stage. And then there was always this thing that we used to say was like, get it done now so that when you're older, you're not thinking, I wonder what that feels like. Like you get erase that curiosity, yeah? So I've always had that feeling of, if you're curious about something, get it done while you're thinking about it so it doesn't manifest later. But again, why I say that's crazy is because certain situations where you have that curiosity, the time might not be now to explore that. But I've got that thing in me is like, if you're curious now, just do it.
Yeah.
Or explore it, let's say. Because it's not necessarily do it. Like explore it.
Yeah.
And if it, like, just to get rid of it now, basically. But yeah.
I feel like I was I kind of shared that attitude a lot more when I was younger. And I was very curious about a lot of things. And I think with me, I feel like my curiosity hasn't stayed the same over the years. Like I was very, very curious when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then it dampened down a lot. And I think that's because I experienced a lot of consequences from my curiosity.
But you see, your curiosity, yeah.
What, mine specifically?
Yours specifically, yeah. Like,
what about my curiosity?
so my curiosity, even though it's wild, yeah, it's very much regimented. So there's things that I know within myself I'll never be curious in doing. Like never, ever, ever. Whereas someone that's more free spirited.
Yeah, someone. Okay.
How do you even like decide what is like what not to be curious in? If that makes sense. Because there's things that tangible things that I can say now. I've never done it and I've got no interest in doing it, and nothing will ever make me curious in doing it. Whereas I've got a sense that when you was younger, there wasn't that.
Yeah, a sense. As if you don't know what haven't been knowing me.
I'm just saying, you know. A sense.
Well, you know what? It's weird because if you'd asked me this before when I was experiencing the consequences of my curiosity, I would say, yeah, I wish I wasn't curious about certain things or hadn't tried them. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like I'm so conflicted here because one part of me really wants to say, if there's something in you that wants to do something, then you should do it just to see why, because there's something in you that's
literally,
pulling you to something. And I've learned so much through those experiences. But also, I have had to suffer a lot because of those experiences too. And I think that's why I really liked what you said about controlled curiosity and knowing your level of, you know, discipline, knowing your level of attachment, knowing what something's going to do for you.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've learnt is learning how to be curious about certain experiences through other people. You know, like kind of learning through how something has gone for them, whether it, you know, you think it's worked for them or you think you're the same kind of person as them to try what they're trying. And if you think it's something that could suit you, you know, and kind of doing things that way.
Yeah.
Like learning, like being curious about people and their lives, you know. I could let someone just sit there and talk to me for ages about their life story because I find it so fascinating just to understand what makes someone the way that they are. And as people are talking, people end up telling on themselves all the time. Like they'll just end up telling you exactly who they are and blah, 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 if they're the type of person to do that.
Yeah.
And you just learn so much just by being curious about their story.
That's very true. But like that ties into like knowledge, like being curious to know more is like knowledge based, right? The thing with that is this is the weird thing about that side of it, yeah, is we go through like a schooling system, yeah, that teaches you a set amount of things, right? And I don't know percentage wise, but I would figure a large percentage of people just take that on board, right? And carry on their life like that.
Yeah.
The ones that seek out more knowledge and are curious to know more, you kind of notice them in society. I think like they're a bit more noticeable in society because they're doing a little bit outside of society's constructs. Now, you enter certain places, career-wise, etc., where they still want to implement the school way of teaching in terms of this is what you need to know, do this.
And don't ask questions.
If you're now that same curious person that you've always been, how do you adjust in those settings?
It's really hard. Like for me, especially some workplaces have been amazing where they've really welcomed new ideas and new ways of doing things. but it is quite hard to go somewhere and just see all the things that are, you know, wrong about the place. I was trying to find another way to say it, but it's true, like just things that are wrong, and just wondering, you know, why aren't people questioning this? But I think one thing that can, or a few things that can hold people back or dampen people's curiosity, because I think as humans, naturally we're curious, you know. Every single child reaches out their hand to touch a hot stove, even though they know they shouldn't.
This is why we do what we do. That's the whole reason that I was trying to get into that.
Yeah.
Is, do you think that like people have been coached out of their curiosity? Because we are all curious people.
I think so. Massively. I'm so glad we're talking about this, because I think everyone is curious. As humans, we naturally are curious. I think some people can be more curious than others, or curious in a different way. Like even that earlier example between us, our curiosity is expressed differently. But I think that certain things can dampen your curiosity, and that can be, you know, as I said, having too many consequences of your curiosity that then, you know, make you a bit more cautious. A sense of hopelessness, you know, being in multiple places that are the same, where you believe that the way of the world isn't really going to change. Yeah. It kind of makes you think, what's the point of being curious? Yeah, I think those are the two things. I'm trying to, I feel like there's a third one, in my opinion, of what dampens down. I think fear plays a big part. Yeah, being scared of, you know, what could happen, or being that voice, or feeling like you're going to be the only voice saying something in a crowd of people who are happy to keep things as they are. Yeah. But I believe that. I believe curiosity can be a really dangerous thing in society.
Is that why, like, it has such a not a negative connotation, but such a dangerous connotation attached to it? Is because everybody had this in them at one point. A lot of people have suppressed it for whichever reason. And when somebody is like bold and brazen enough to explore their curiosity, they point the finger like that person's the bad person. Like,
well, think about how inconvenient curiosity can be. Say if you're a parent and your child keeps asking you questions about things, or if you tell them not to do something, they want to know why. Imagine that on like a larger scale, you know, when there's a system in place, a status quo in place. You don't want questions. It's inconvenient. It's disruptive to what's currently happening. But we are naturally curious. Like you'll have you know, a reality TV show or something or whatever, and you won't just watch it and take it. There'll be a lot of people who will look at that and think, are they really as they present themselves to be? You know, what is actually going on behind closed doors?
It's true. Do you often see people and just question them, like, why are you not curious about what's going on right now? Why are you just accepting it? Why are you just not? Do you ever think like that? Or do you just...
I don't know. I don't think I'm as external with my curiosity in terms of wondering. Because I've never actually thought about that with other people, like how curious or not curious they are, or wanting.
That's so interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Because I feel, because I'm the same, I don't really look at other people and like curious about why... Unless I'm like curious about how they've done something, I don't really. But I feel, obviously I don't know for fact, I feel like the people that aren't curious about things in the way that I might be curious, or the way you might be curious, are curious about why we do what we do. If that makes sense. Like they seem to me that they would be the ones that would be sitting back asking, why does that person do that? Why is that person so...
Like, what's wrong with them? Why can't they just do their job and blah, blah, blah? And it's like, why can't you wake up?
So it's like both sides have this level of curiosity, but it's expressed different. It's looked at different. The curiosity that I have is looked at as unsettling, dangerous, inappropriate.
Inappropriate. You lost me there, but go.
Like all of those type of words, whereas the other person is like, it's weird. So with like people,
Oh, good old people. I'm so ready to talk about people today.
What's your, like, do you ever meet somebody or see someone and just naturally become curious about them?
Literally with almost everyone I meet. Well, yeah, actually, I am.
To what extent, though?
I'm really curious. It depends, because I think there's some people that you're naturally more drawn to than others. And, you know, and it's nothing to do with a certain type of person or whatever. I think everyone naturally has that thing where someone will be interesting for you for your
100%.
own specific reasons. But I think with everyone, especially people who, you know what I get really curious about? It's just looking at people and seeing how they are misunderstood.
Really?
You know? Yeah. Like what people are misunderstanding about them, or
What type of people, for example?
outcasts. And you have, like, you always get that one person at work, you know, who is misunderstood. Or I think in the workplace I'm working in at the moment, because it's a temporary job, it brings in a lot of creative people, a lot of people who, you know, are quite like that. And I find all of them so fascinating, you know, just understanding how they are, why they are the way they are. And then when they're speaking, I'm just wondering, who do you go home to? What do you do when you go home? You know, what does your home look like?
Yeah.
All those types of things. How do you organize your clothes? I know I sound weird, but
You took it to a whole new yeah.
I do though. I do. And it won't even be like, it will just be random people. Like, I was literally thinking that about someone yesterday, because they were talking and talking and talking, and they were really kind of like, they're the type of person who projects their things onto other people. So for instance, this guy will talk on and on about this other woman at work, about how egocentric she is, and she talks about herself all the time while simultaneously doing the same thing. And it just made me wonder about, you know, so much of his life. And I was there like, wow, how do I find these things out?
So you actively want to find out?
Yeah, you do, because I don't know, I find people so interesting, you know, and I think when you tap into curiosity, it can be so beneficial in looking beyond what's just happening in that moment, you know. For instance, you could be you know, speaking to someone at work, be that new person at work who is, you know, charismatic and gets along with everyone, blah blah blah. And then one woman comes up to you and who's not as charismatic, blah blah blah. And I need to stop saying blah blah. But anyway, she comes up to you, starts complaining about how noisy everything is, and you know, you guys were too loud and this, that, and the other. And at first glance, you can take that and think, oh, you know, they're just having a go, blah blah blah. They're just having a go.
You said it again,
but
I weren't gonna highlight it.
But if you're more curious, then it gives you that ability to understand other options as to why someone could be behaving the way that they are. It takes away the assumption out of things, and it allows you to ask more questions, you know, and get down to the bottom of things and think like, oh wait, are they triggered by something right now? You know, are they jealous? And that's actually exactly what happened. They admitted it afterwards, you know. So I think being curious allows you to like not take things personally or at face value.
Because there's times when you meet someone and like you're saying, they do certain things and you could easily just be annoyed by it or take it as a certain thing, but if you dig a bit deeper, you can kind of understand why. And you don't really get a chance to dig deeper unless you're curious about it.
Yeah.
If you just take everything as it is, then you're not really going to see what's beneath the surface.
Exactly.
Oh man, I hate surface level things.
Same.
So
can't deal. So boring. But also, being curious gives you more opportunity to be a kinder person, I think, too, you know, and just to do that. But one thing I do want to say, just on the flip side, is there is a difference between being curious about something and then allowing your mind to just fall down a hole and overanalyze something.
Oh, like you're saying, of being suspicious.
Yeah, being suspicious, or the example that I was going to use, for instance, is say if like you're talking to a guy or whatever, or a girl, whatever, and you know, they start ghosting you or stop being as responsive. There can be a bit of a curiosity there, you know, like, why have they done this to me? I'm joking.
How far down that line do you go before it crosses over?
It's immediately there, I'm not going to lie,
Is
with
it?
me. Yeah, because, but not anymore, you know, but that's kind of what I would do. I'd fall down that trap of, you know, instead of being a bit curious.
What would be a bit curious in that situation?
A bit curious would be, I wonder what's different with their day to day, or, oh, I wonder what happened with them, or, you know, something like that, being curious, or, oh, okay, I wonder when they are going to message. So let's just see what happens. And that's being curious. Being over analytical is, I wonder if when I said this, that put them off and now they're not talking, or I wonder if they're talking to someone else, or, you know, maybe, and then trying to look back in conversations and figuring out what, you know, ruined the bond. When you start taking it all on yourself like that, then I think that's where you got to draw the line.
You basically touched on what I was going to move on to, yeah?
We're so in sync today. I love it.
Is there like, so you think curiosity can be unhealthy at any stage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. You don't need to be, you can be a little bit curious when someone pops into your head, but unhealthy curiosity is when you think, oh, I wonder how so-and-so is getting, you know, this past ex person.
Have you
in
ever
my
been
life.
curious about an ex?
Yes. And then have called them or messaged them for no reason. And guess what? Nothing changed.
So wait. Let me pause you there. Do you think being curious about an ex, as in just the thought of them, like, I wonder what they're doing now. I wonder if they're cool. I wonder what they're not up to. Just those two.
That's on the list. Yeah.
Just I wonder what they're doing now. I wonder if they're cool. Do you think that's unhealthy? Or does it then become unhealthy when you try to satisfy that curiosity by going to see what they're doing, like, as in checking their social media, or no? I don't like that look. That looks like a
Like, have you been on my search history? Why? I'm joking. No, you know what? I think it depends on the kind of person you are. Because if you're the kind of person who someone pops into your head, you're a little bit curious, you want to see what they're up to, you go and see, you have a look, and then you move on, and that's your curiosity satisfied. For some reason or the other, if you're that kind of person and that's all you need, and you can and are capable of moving forward, then I don't think that's necessarily a problem, you know? I think it becomes a problem when every month you're checking what they're doing, or calling them up, or dropping a message. That's where I believe you're falling in between that fine line between curiosity and impulsivity.
That makes sense. That does make sense.
Yeah.
But have you never been in the place in your life where, have you ever, let me ask, been in the place in your life where you may have met somebody, everything was cool, you had a great conversation, yeah? Days go by, you haven't spoken to them, but the conversation was just nice. So you're like interested in just having that conversation, like continuing that conversation, yeah? But the lines of communication between you two hasn't been there. But now you're curious to understand, like, was it just a one-off? Like, is there something there? What would you do in that situation? Would you then go and seek out that person, or would you just let your curiosity just go?
You know what I do? Block. I'm joking.
Well, would you block someone you had a good convo with?
I'm joking. Let me think. So to be clear, is this like a romantic interest, or?
It can be, potentially, but just someone in general.
So, and you've had a good conversation with them in person, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
say you met somebody at an event now, and then you lot had a good conversation. You may have exchanged details, and then, yeah, and then everything that I said prior, basically. I lost it in my own head. I didn't want to repeat it and say it wrong.
So, okay, cool. So you've met this person in person, you've had a great conversation, you've exchanged details, and you want to carry on talking. I would talk.
You would like, but time's passed now. Between you
Only
meeting them at the
days.
event, no, a longer period. So to allow this curiosity to build up, let's say a month and a half. You've met somebody, you had a great conversation, everything was cool.
Yeah.
A month and a half's gone past. But now you're curious, like they've popped into your mind for whatever reason. And now you're curious to see if like that was just a one-off or...
Got you, yeah. So with that, and I'll give you a real life example, when that happens and I've got like a hunch about someone, which is how I would call that, like if they've popped into my head and I feel like speaking to them, I always follow it up and reach out. And that did happen where I was out on like at an event and I spoke to someone really random and we hit it off. We got on so well. We were both drinking and this, that and the other. So, you know, when that kind of happens, you don't know how real that conversation was. So I did follow up with this person, like, I think a few days after.
Yeah.
And they'd gone away somewhere, like they'd gone out of London. And then they popped into my head literally a month later, like a month or so. And I reached out and I was like, oh, how have you been? Are you back? How are things? Blah, blah, blah. And this person ended up, their partner hosted like this music and spoken word event. And I ended up going there and performing and being paid for it just from this one interaction. Yeah. And
that's why you can't ignore it.
Yeah, you can't ignore it. Like I feel, and again, this is why curiosity is so beneficial rather than expectation or trying to direct the way that something's going to be. Because you could have met this person and thought, oh my God, they're interested. It's going to turn into this one thing and blah, blah, blah. And then when it doesn't, you're just disappointed that this person isn't interested in the way that you wanted without even really knowing whether you wanted that interest yourself. And being curious and just allowing something to unfold and seeing how it happens, it allows you to be open to new opportunities and experiences.
It's true. And I also feel like if you're the person that's curious, you know what you're curious about, if that
Not
makes
always.
well give or take. So like, say for instance now, I'll use myself in this scenario. Say for instance, I met someone at an event, a girl at an event, and we started speaking, and she's telling me about different things that she does in an industry similar to myself, right? And I'm like, cool, having a good conversation. Outside of that, just a general conversation, getting to know each other. And then the same thing happens, like I said to you. We haven't spoke, but we might have swapped Instagrams.
Yeah.
But we haven't spoken since that day, And like time passes. Then like a curiosity in me kicks in to like, same thing I said about we had a great conversation. Let me just see what's up with her. I know that my curiosity is, let me just see what's up with her, She could easily interpret it as I'm trying to get onto her, like I'm trying to get, right? But because it's my curiosity, I know what my curiosity is there for. So I have control over the narrative of that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Whereas from the outside looking in, unless you've been privy to that conversation, it may just look like what she might think.
Yeah.
Or what society might think is a guy approaching a girl. In those instances, how comfortable do you feel with still pursuing it, knowing that it might be looked at in the wrong way?
I am so comfortable with that because I do not care. Like, especially when it's something to do with your life, I think you just have to go for those things and do that, because you never know what could turn into like an opportunity, a lesson. And by opportunity, I don't necessarily just mean, you know, like a work opportunity or a creative opportunity. You could have a conversation with someone and they say one thing to you that you keep for the rest of your life, you know?
Literally.
And it helps you. I feel, for me personally, there's a level of surrender that I have to the universe where if they've brought someone into my life, I feel like that there's something there for me to seek out when that happens.
Of course.
But at the same time, I would never, if I'm reaching out to someone and I have no problem reaching out to them, I would never lead someone on that this is what that is in order to get information leverage that, you know, attractiveness that I have.
Have you never done it before? Is that what you're saying here?
Yes, I am. Why?
Just asking the question, you know.
There was a tone.
Being a good co-host, asking the question people want to know.
No, I've never leveraged that position, you know, because I feel like I genuinely don't care what impression that other person is getting, because that is a world that you've created on your own, sir. I don't know who told you that, but I have told you what I've come here for, you know.
I get it. I get it.
But at the same time, having said that, one thing I'm always open to is friendship, and I am open to that, because you just don't know who someone's gonna become.
No, it's true.
You know?
It's so true. Like, from a surface level, you just never, we never know.
You never know. There's so many of, you know, my current friends today who, when I met them at the time, they were either like a friend of a friend or, you know, met through work or whatever. And I had no idea that it would be as, you know, significant to me today as it's become. And I think
that's very true.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's important to have an awareness within yourself, you know, because I've seen it myself where people who might be, you know, looking for something specific, and that's not just something romantic, even with friendships, you know, and you can meet someone for the first time and kind of force a deeper connection onto them, and that naturally pushes someone back because they're just like, whoa, this is a lot of intensity.
That's very
I've
true.
seen and experienced that happen. And again, you can't meet everyone expecting them to become your best friend in life, or or expecting them or hoping for them to become a significant person. You have to be okay with being patient in that journey and letting it unfold naturally.
That does make a lot of sense to me. A lot of people try to rush it though, and it's like,
a lot of people. I remember I introduced two friends once, and one of them was quite full on, and they were like to my friend, I feel like we're going to be very good friends, like best friends. And my friend said to me, do not get this person to...
Like, you can think that, but calm down.
You need to calm down. Yeah, you know.
That's
and
crazy.
there's a difference between like authenticity and then I think getting lost with the wind.
How do you deal with someone being curious with you? Curious about you, curious with you?
I can understand why, but you know, I don't know. It depends on what they're curious about.
That's a very broad question when I think about it.
What do you mean?
just like someone that's, like you said, there's a difference between being suspicious.
You know what? Let me answer that question off the bat. So I am really happy to share my opinion with people. So if people are curious about my thoughts on something, or how I might handle something hypothetically, then I'm very happy to share that. But if people are very curious about my life and my upbringing and things about me outside of us having a deeper conversation where things like that are naturally coming up, and when they naturally come up, they're already coming up with a bit of a filter. But if you just want to know these things about me off the bat, you can't know that. You're not privy, and you don't have access to my information just because You know?
Like, haven't you never had that world where someone's asking you something and you're like, why? And they're just like, oh, I'm just curious. I'm just curious to know.
And I'm like, I don't care. Because the thing is with me, and I've gotten better at it. Like when I was younger, I would never really know how to handle those situations. I'd just answer the questions. And I had to learn very quickly that you're giving, like your life story is important, you know? Your life, your upbringing, your experiences, those things aren't nothing. They're important. And you don't know if you're saying that to someone who is as kind as you are and sees that for what it is and is sharing a moment with you, or someone who's an opportunist and is looking to take advantage of someone exactly like you. And there are more of the latter than the former.
That's very true. That is very true.
You don't know who you're talking to. Like, I always have it in the back of my mind. Like, are you as honest with me as I'm
with you?
Yeah. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I feel like I thought for a minute, I thought I stopped it around. But yeah, you got to be so careful, because another big thing I learned is you can be curious about someone, like all the questions that I have in my mind, as I mentioned with my, you know, the people that I'm around at the moment, are not all the questions I'm going to ask. Like you also have to have curiosity with the test of time, you know, and letting things naturally happen. Also, sometimes you might not want the answers to those questions. You might not need to know what someone's been through.
That's very true. But on the flip side, take it away from people and honing in on yourself. Yeah. You see, like, is there an extent where you've ever been too curious and you're just like, yeah, let me just leave that alone, because that's just opening a can of worms.
Yeah. Do you have more of like a specific example of that?
Not tailored to yourself or just in general?
Yeah, just in general. But now I'm
knew
curious. What do you mean tailored to my... What does that mean? I want both. I want two.
No, let's not be greedy.
All right, do a general.
Just like, I don't know. Let's say like you've always had this. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, so, all right, cool. Opening a can of worms. Say there's been something that's happening in your family for a while, but you've not been privy to all the details.
That kind of worms is what I say. Unless if it's immediate family, that doesn't even count, because I'd know. But if it's extended family and there's something going on, the gossip in me just needs to know.
But there's curiosity, then there's nosiness though.
I'm nosy. I want to know. I'm like, but tell me about my aunts and uncles.
If you finding out this information changes everything in your world, like how you look at them, stuff from your youth that you didn't really...
Then it's a necessity. You should tell me.
You think so?
Yes, exposure is knowledge. Like, you need to know who you're around.
That's very true. But say like, you know the thing, if what you don't know won't harm you kind of thing.
I do not believe that at all.
I'm just throwing all the sayings at you right now.
And I'm throwing them back like they're not true. What you don't know won't harm you, not necessarily. So
you think you should open that can of worms?
Yes.
Really?
Especially with family. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing we forget with family is that before they're anything to you, they are a human in the world, you know, and you need to know what kind of human this is, because not all family members are the same type of family member that you are. And that is just a cold, hard fact. That's
why I said, I couldn't really say nothing else. No, it's interesting though, because obviously there's people that will like unravel childhood trauma by being curious about something, like, and they never really knew until they was extra curious, and then they found out one day. But then there's like, I know an example of someone that was curious about a situation in their family, and by being curious, I call it nosy, but hey, that's neither here nor there. But imagine, I can't remember who it was. It was someone in their family, right? They wasn't hair legally, apparently, yeah. But their curiosity, one day, this is nosiness to me. One day they was in that person's house, something was left lying on the side. It was curious.
That's a line. That's a line. You can't be going through people's things. I'm talking about.
Saw something, but by seeing it, they realized that person wasn't here legally, right? But because they've seen this information, they know how to work around this, and they've helped this person get their stay.
That's good. Yeah.
So there was a benefit for them being curious, but the steps that they had to take was like, you shouldn't have been doing that. But they just went and done that.
But look at how, if you do give into your curiosity, like there's, you have to surrender to the universe, they happened to leave that letter out that day that they were around.
But how many people would be like, it's not my business?
I have a thing like that. So my mum.
I'm sure your mum will be all right with you saying this.
An unknown family member. So I had this aunt, right? And she went on like this massive weight loss journey, and she's an aunt that no one likes from us lot. And she went on this massive weight loss journey and would run around and like lecture everyone on what to do at the gym and eat this and eat that. And instead of making us rice, she'd make couscous and all these other healthy things that no young person wants to eat. I don't like the way you sound disgusted at the healthiness, but go on. I was young in it. But I just wanted McDonald's, to be honest. And I was like, why have you decided to cook this stuff? Like, we don't go to the gym. I'm 15.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you.
17, 18, but still, still. So, and literally to every family member, she would honestly, unprovoked, rent-free, just lecture them on the gym, on eating, use herself as an example with her whole journey. And then my unknown family member happened to come across a letter that showed that they did not achieve this weight loss journey through the means that they'd said, but actually through surgery.
Do you know why that's bad? Because that's a large percentage of Instagram right now.
It was so bad. We
crazy.
literally were like, no way. And this is why curiosity is amazing, because you could be going around, and this is for real Instagram. Like, that's why curiosity is important, because you can be going around and being down on yourself, which is how my unknown family member was feeling, like, oh, why, how have they managed to achieve this through these things, and I'm trying to do the same thing and I haven't achieved those results so quickly. And then we all knew why. There was like a huge shortcut that was being taken.
Imagine that. Oh, that's funny.
That is so joke.
That is funny.
It's gone down in history as one of the most iconic gossip moments.
As I said, it's funny because fast forward how many years, and that's the reality of so many people online.
Yeah.
Like, they're telling you one thing.
So many years ago, like over 10.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. I think that's a good point for us to round it up on. I was going to say something else, but it would not take a downer, but I like that story. So, in summary,
yes,
we saying curiosity kills the cat or not?
I say satisfaction always brings it back. That's what I'll say.
Fair play. Any wise words?
Wise words.
Or words of advice, I should say.
Word of advice. Yeah, I know. When did we change word of advice to wise words?
You.
Self-proclaimed wisdom, but
that's what we do here.
It is me, actually. I did confuse it. With curiosity, word of advice, I'd say, F it, just do it, because life goes on every day in every moment, and you'll be okay. Just do it. Be curious. Try it out. See what happens, and it will be okay.
I agree. I don't really have anything different to say in terms of that. Only thing that I would add is that understand your boundaries and be as curious as you want within that.
And you know what? Before we leave, on another note, I would say, because we didn't really get to speak about it today, but be curious about yourself. That is a huge, huge thing. You have to be curious. And you know what? I say it every episode, so I may as well say it again.
Yeah.
Be curious about your thoughts. Be curious about your mind. Write it down. Ask yourself, why am I thinking these things? How did I get here? Because if you don't get curious about yourself, you will get very mean about yourself. You can put yourself in a really horrible, dark place so quickly, and then that will traumatize you into wanting to be self-aware again. And you need curiosity to get through it, because it's not your fault that you're the way you are, but it is your responsibility to know who you are.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Perfect ending.
No, it is. That's a very big point. I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because yeah, that resonates with probably everyone. But yeah, on that note, thanks for joining us with another episode
of Alphawaves.
Follow us on
TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud.
Talk to us.
Yes,
we're here to be spoken to and with. Spoken. Bye.